Welcome to CT with CPD podcast. I am your host, Sharon Diggs. And today, the last day of March, our topic is love doesn't fail, people do. So welcome to the CP with CPD podcast. Again, I'm your host, Sharon Diggs. And I just could not let this month slip by without posting a podcast in this month of March. So here we go with this hot topic about love and dating. Today, everyone wants to be an expert on love and dating. Nowadays, it seems everybody has their own narrative, their own spin on how men and women should show up as far as dating and love, and how each person is to their behaviors when it comes to love and dating, like what the behavior should look like, I should probably say, which I find is interesting because as God has made each and every one of us uniquely in his own perfection to uniquely be different. So I'm not really clear on how we tend to consistently generalize how a man should show up, how a man should respond, how a woman should act, or what a woman should do. We're all uniquely different when it comes to our behaviors in relationships and just being who we are and our authentic selves. So as you know, each and every podcast, I do some Did You Know facts. I'm going to share some facts about dating and love and share some of the things about how we ended up in where we are in the dating circuit of 2023. And why I feel that love doesn't fail, people do. And basically, in essence, we just have to take accountability to how we're showing up in or on the dating scene in this 21st century. So, did you know there was a study done, and I believe it's by Sun, and it might have been a Britain study, but it was also some U.S. studies that I'm going to share as well. But there was a study that stated that 8 out of 10 people feel that they settled for second best when it came to their current partner. Okay. There was a study also done at Michigan State University where it states on some research that was done using simulated organisms that many people were more likely to play it safe and settle for a relationship, especially if they felt that the stakes were high. They preferred to take the safe options. And I said to myself, well, that explains why I'm still single. Everybody playing it safe. Inside joke. But true, got some true validity facts to that. People playing it safe. And also, in some research that was done, said about 40% of adults were in relationships that they didn't think that person was the one. So it goes back to settling, playing it safe. And they stated that a lot of times people felt like either they weren't going to find love or they just didn't want to stay single, so they settle. So they say typically now in society, a study has also shown that many people are in unhealthy relationships and they didn't want to be in them. Psychology Today also found that the most common reasons why people break up in relationships or end up in divorce is because of lack of commitment, too much arguing, infidelity, marrying too young, unrealistic expectations, lack of equality in the relationship, lack of preparation for marriage, which I love this piece because I feel like people are more excited about the wedding, but are not prepared for what marriage entails. I see it all the time, and honestly, I think people just be excited. Oh, I got the ring, I'm getting married, not really understanding or being prepared for what it entails to be married. So I remember back in 1999, I read this article in Essence Magazine, and I'll never forget it. And it says, love doesn't fail, people do. And I thought, that is so profound, but it's so true. You know, love is unconditional, but so many of us place conditions on love and in relationships. I do believe that setting boundaries is something different, because you should set boundaries for yourself. What works for you and what doesn't work for you. But what I mean is, we tend to set expectations and conditions on, if this person doesn't do this for me, if that person doesn't do that for me, and if I don't get this, like we have all these huge expectations. And I just think I think that causes a lot of strife in a lot of relationships, and why people tend to cheat or go outside of the relationship, or we break up. Now, they say the main reasons why relationships fail is because of loss of trust, poor communication, lack of respect, difference in priorities, and little intimacy. They always have that saying, the same way you got him is the same way you got to keep him. The same way you got her is the same way you got to keep her. Got to keep that intimacy in there. But it's so interesting is because now when I look at the dating scene and I think about, there's a huge percentage, especially women that are single, is because they have all these new terms and behaviors that are showing up for men and women. And one of the ones is this term they call gaslighting, which is a psychological form of manipulation. So that's a huge one out now in the dating scene. Breadcrumbing was something new I just learned myself, and it's an act of sending out flirtatious but non-committal signals in order to lure a romantic partner, but you have no intentions on wanting to be with that person. So you just breadcrumb. I was like, yep, can see that. This is when I love, and I had this conversation with one of my sons, my youngest son, is men and women ending up in what we call a placeholding status. And basically what a placeholder is you are there for your partner and you do all the things you would normally do in a relationship, but you are only holding that place until someone better comes along. And you can really date this person for a long period of time, but your partner knows that you are not that special person, or you are not that one. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I think a big, huge thing, and I think this is, again, all for men and women, is that people are just emotionally unavailable. And what it means to be emotionally unavailable is they're not comfortable with their feelings and emotions and sharing their emotions, or being present or being responsive to someone's emotions. And then lastly is the one people know is the ghosting, where someone just cuts you off, no communication, no explanation. Just one day you're talking to them and then the next day they just disappear. So these are all these new things going on. Like dating used to didn't be like this. You would court, you would get to know people. If it didn't work out, it just didn't work out. I've plenty of people that things didn't work out, but we're still friends. They just weren't the person for me and I wasn't the person for them, and we're still friends. I don't know what's going on in the dating scene today. Like, it's just crazy. But what I will say is the reality is nobody is perfect. Everybody comes with some type of baggage. You got some of us that are unpacking packages and baggage. Some have already unpacked it and, have already been healed, and some are healing. And then you have some that just continuously keep repacking the bags, or some that just won't unpack it at all. Personally, how I feel, and I'm not an expert, but I just really feel like it comes down to this. I feel like you see people and you could be interested in somebody, but sometimes people just aren't ready. They're not ready for that relationship, but they're interested. But for whatever reason, You could be the right person and it's just bad timing, and that person may not be ready, whether it's due to their own personal, professional, emotional, physical, financial, and or mental state of being. And I think this is where people need to be authentically open and vulnerable and communicate that. And I think that's where it comes into. We typically tend to stereotype and just say, they was just playing or emotions, but people aren't really being straightforward about what's really going on in their lives. And so what tends to happen is the other person tends to interpret it and take it personal because they don't know what's really going on. And then there's some cases where it could be the right time, but they could be a good person, but they're just not the person for you. But again, we're not having those conversations. We ghost people, or as they say, we breadcrumb. And I think maybe you breadcrumbing and your intentions are really there, but because you're dealing with something financially or you're dealing with something health-wise that the other person doesn't know about. And so you tend to distance yourself because you're trying to deal with your own stuff. And I think that we just don't have that open level of communication with people nowadays. So what I've just learned, or what I feel like we have to learn to do, is just understand and accept that these things will happen and life will show up. But we have to stop categorizing things and putting things into a box to feed our own ego and our own pride. Or, if something doesn't fit our expectations because we just don't understand what's going on. And so it's not meeting your expectations. Again, it's just a level of people just aren't communicating effectively these days. We just don't. In my opinion, I feel men and women both come into situations in the dating scene these days, and they aren't completely honest when it comes to dating and being in a relationship. And they tend to not be honest about different things. It's not the same things, but men and women are showing up not being truthful these days. So the struggle is real out here in the dating scene. And I'm going to be honest with you. In my opinion, I feel society doesn't give men the same grace as we do women when it comes to being emotionally broken, hurt, grief, pain, or whatever we're going through. We just don't give men the same grace. It always seems to me, especially when you look at social media or just in general in conversations, men always seem to be held at a higher level of standard, which I feel makes it harder for men to let go of their pride and their ego to be vulnerable. And ladies and gentlemen, let me say this. Vulnerability is not a weakness. It is a strength. And it is also healing. And I'm going to tell you why vulnerability is not a weakness. Because it's you being honest and truthful about how you feel and being present in the moment about what is really going on with you. It's a strength and it's healing to the soul and to the mind and to your spirit. I will say, in the midst of all this craziness going on in the dating scene, there's absolutely nothing wrong with enjoying your singleness. Singleness and dating yourself is a vibe within itself. It's refreshing. It gives you peace. It helps you to learn yourself. It helps you to achieve things that you want to achieve personally for yourself without feeling like you don't have to make the compromise when you're in a relationship. There's so many wonderful things that you can enjoy in your singleness. And I'll be honest, I love being single, but I would love the opportunity to have a companion. But I'm not willing to, I'm not going to say I'm not willing to go into something knowing, because I know nobody's going to be perfect. Let me just say that. But I need that person to understand what it means to come into the relationship and be in a healthy state of mind, in a healthy state of being honest, being able to be vulnerable, being able to work through things together, not wanting to throw in a towel as soon as something doesn't go their way. Understanding that it's a teamwork, that it's a partnership. That's what's important for me. And so if that comes about, great. But I'm not open to one-sided relationships. So I'm a believer that a healthy relationship starts with having a healthy relationship, a healthy, loving relationship with yourself. Healthy relationships involve honesty, consistency, trust, respect, and open communication. And I think the biggest thing for me is being authentic. Being your authentic self and being comfortable to be your true self. Like, that's where I'm at in my life. I have to be my whole self. If I feel like I have to guard myself, or I feel like I got to second guess myself, that ain't it for me. I have to be able to be exactly who God created me to be. And I think that's what a healthy relationship looks like. Are there going to be issues? Because we're nobody's perfect. There's going to be disagreements, absolutely. But if the relationship is healthy, you can communicate and you can work through those things. And I feel that relationships will last forever if people can be open in their communication, if people can be honest, if there is trust, if there is intimacy, and if you're in a relationship where you can evolve and see love grow with time. Because that is another thing. I am 53. I am not going to be the same person at 58. Mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally. And I think that's a huge piece of what it means to be in a healthy relationship, is that people are going to grow and people are going to evolve. And are we together, and can we align ourselves and align our goals to be able to be where it needs to be? And I think the key thing is always keeping God center focus first and keeping people out your business. That part. So I find that we tend to play it safe a lot of the times. We tend to settle a lot. And we run from love, where love really doesn't fail. The word says love does not delight in evil, but it rejoices with truth. It always protects. It always trusts. It always hopes. It always preserves. Love never fails. It said love bears all things. Even y'all, he said all things. So when something gets uncomfortable, it doesn't mean we run for the hills or I'm out. It says love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things, and love never ends. And so with that being said, I still believe in love. I still believe that love will win, and that people can be in healthy, loving relationships, even when you're going through stuff. I truly believe in my heart of hearts that you can survive through anything in a relationship if you put God first. If you can truly, authentically be yourself. If you can truly be honest and have open communication and be willing to be vulnerable. And I think the key thing is really, truly letting go ego and pride. And that's for men and women. So I'll end with this. Love still wins. Prayer still works. And God is still able. Take care, be blessed. It's been wonderful sharing this podcast with you today. Look forward to our next educational therapy session.